Welcome back. This is an episode that we are again filming in Winchester, England. This is with my very good friend Chun. Chun is a very special character. He's from Hong Kong. However, you will see a very English accent. Spent most of his life in England and has a very interesting point of view on things on life, also on artificial intelligence from his human resources background, and he's doing very different kind of activities nowadays. So let's go to Winchester to meet Chun. Let's go. Thank you, Chun. Thank you for being here today. It's a pleasure to see you again and again and again. This is my friend Chun. Welcome to Meet the Human podcast, episode number 10, I believe. So welcome. We are in Winchester, England, again, and this is where more or less Chun is around. And how are you, Chun?
I'm good. I'm really good, thanks.
Thank you. We're going to have a discussion on humanity, human values, and then we'll talk about AI. But starting with you, can you just give us a bit of a brief, however you want to describe yourself?
So we've known each other for many years, and what I thought I'd do is start just by talking about how I got to here, and start talking about, I don't know how brief it's going to be, but let's just see how we get on.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents came from Hong Kong. We've both worked internationally. You currently work away from your home country, and we often think about going abroad as these great opportunities for our professional development, and we perhaps don't think so much about people like my parents and the current situation with the migrants across the world now, where people are leaving for a better life. And in the UK there was this whole thing about economic migrants. Well, my parents were economic migrants. My mum was a farmer, my dad was a carpenter. They didn't look like they were very good at it, from what I could tell. And they came to England where, with hard work and good choices, they could make a decent life for themselves and for their children.
How old were they when they came to England?
They were 30 or so.
Oh.
Because I was born in the UK, and I've already got 4 siblings who came. And so my dad came actually first, made enough money working in a Chinese restaurant in the north of England before making enough money to bring everybody over back from Hong Kong to the UK. Mm-hmm. So I was born there and I grew up in a Chinese takeaway. And I was just reflecting on the journey here about working in a Chinese takeaway or growing up in a Chinese takeaway. And you think, well, I really, really hated it. So anybody who's worked in the food business knows that it's a mad rush in between nothing happening. Everything has to be right. You don't get praise for doing things right. You get criticised for doing things wrong, because if you've done something wrong, it very obviously costs money because you have to replace it. You have to make good your mistake. And you have to make sure that things are prepared. Because in a Chinese takeaway, the French call it mise en place, if I've pronounced it correctly, where everything is ready. So if you're ordering something, everything is there, everything's chopped and ready to be cooked. So you have to be making sure that everything's right. And we'd always have a rush, especially on the weekends, when back in the day in the UK, pubs would close at 11 o'clock.
Yes, I remember that. It was a bit painful when you're young.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And what would happen is that people would start drinking at about 7, be ready to go home at about, well, not ready to go home, but the pubs would be kicking them out at about 11, and people would be rushing in, drunk, into my parents' takeaway, wanting food as quickly as possible, and so they can go home and slump in front of the telly. So this idea of having to work hard, getting everything prepared was something that was part of my childhood, and I worked very hard in education to get out of there. So like many of us, we studied hard. We went to university. For reasons which I still don't understand, I went into HR, but I studied first to be an occupational psychologist, which I didn't particularly enjoy. And now I work in strategy for a third sector organisation.
Not HR.
Not HR.
Not HR. So now feeling better?
There's good and bad things about working in HR, and there's good and bad things about everybody's job.
Mm-hmm. So you were very young, and so basically you grew up in England, but I can now see your origins. We know each other for so many years, and this is the first time I hear this story. So
2009.
2009, yes.
You were in Korea.
We met when I was in Korea.
Yeah.
Of course, I knew about you coming to England, but I didn't know exactly how it came up with your family, your parents, and how that actually shapes who you are, right?
Well, it was interesting because I didn't realise just how much I have the sort of Chinese cultural values in me until I went to China. Because
that was how many years later?
So that was I arrived December 2008.
But that was the first time you went back to China?
So I'd go to Hong Kong, but when you go on, it's like when you go on anywhere to holiday.
Means going to China for a longer time.
Yeah.
Just tell us about this, yes.
So I'd go to Hong Kong. I'd go to where my parents grew up and first met, and it was rural, and they got a flat, and it was quite nice, and it's all Hong Kong is just like, it's very Western. It's not entirely Western, but and you go there for 2 weeks at most, and then you have a nice time. You eat a lot of Chinese food, and then you come back craving English food. In my case. But when you go to China and you then get to know people and you start speaking to people, you start realizing actually some of the things that people how think and react are exactly the same as me. And I'm thinking, well, that's my parents. And I speak to I am still practicing my Mandarin, and I speak to my tutor, who's a good 15, 20 years younger than me, and she grew up in exactly the same sort of way, with the same sort of parental child rearing patterns. It's just all very familiar. But I thought, you grow up in the UK, you go to school in the UK, you go to university in the UK, you work in the UK, that's you're essentially British. And actually, I didn't quite realise how much home life had, the Chinese attitudes from my immigrant parents had gone into me. Mm-hmm. And I sort of see it now with some of my son's friends who are in a similar position, in the sense of they've got parents who've come from elsewhere. And I always remember how one of his friends, he had a play date and we were invited for dinner. And actually, although when they stepped outside the door, they were in England and they worked in England and they had good jobs and everything, but when they walked in through the door, they were basically in India. Their life was basically Indian. Their friends were Indian. And it was southern India. It wasn't North India. It was southern India, and it was lovely to see. But it was really stark to see that difference between mm-hmm. people's home life and their work life and how they brought up.
Mm-hmm. Probably living two lives at the same time.
Yeah. It was interesting because the daughter said she wanted English food, and her mum said to me, "I don't know how to cook English food." So I said, "Why don't you come to ours and I'll make something,
Plenty of food outside."
Yes.
Wow, that makes me think about actually even my own life. But this is not about me. Some few podcasts ago, one person said, he said something similar to what is happening to you. He said, really the smallest unit where you find all your values is your family. So I think basically this is what you more or less, you may agree with this.
Yeah, and I think as you're young, your parents are the center of your world, and as you get older, your friends become more and more important, and your attitudes change. You start making, you start having your own thoughts. But when I had counselling, and you end up spending a lot of time talking about your childhood. Well, I did, at least, anyway.
So maybe you're ready to give us a bit of a definition of humanity with this experience, if you have any.
I don't have a definition, but what I see increasingly, and I might be mixing two concepts here, is just a lack of empathy. And how people become increasingly focused on their own perspective and view of life, and that is the right thing, because I saw it, I am right. And because you don't agree with me, you're probably wrong. And a very well established theory is something called the fundamental attribution error. And so let me illustrate that. So you see somebody walking down the street and they stumble, and you go, oh God, you see that person? They're so clumsy. And then you walk over that same bit of street and you stumble, and you go, oh my God, look at the state of this pavement. Somebody needs to fix this. So what you've done is you've given an explanation to that other person of something that's intrinsic to them. They are clumsy. Whereas when it's to you, it's something external. I'm not clumsy. It's this pavement that is terrible. And I interpret that as a sort of a lack of empathy, a lack of putting yourself in somebody else's position, in their place. And some of the debates that we see and humanity around it is how it's increasingly difficult, and with our attention being taken away with so many people shouting into the internet, increasingly difficult just to take that person's perspective.
Oh, like we are listening to someone, even in the internet, and actually we are not listening to that. We don't know who that person is. we listen to the shouting, but we're not entirely sure about who's talking.
We're listening to the shouting, and also, you see, well, I see on the news, my little bubble of the news, increasingly how people who disagree with you aren't disagreeing with you because they've come to a different perspective. There's something wrong with them. They're bad people or evil. And this idea that we can agree to disagree, I don't hear a lot of it on the internet.
Yes. So then you said before that you found yourself having values that actually come more from your Chinese origins than your life in the UK. That's.
I think it's a mix, and I think this is where how the Americans talk about it is right. Because especially when I was at university, I had a lot of friends who were from the Chinese diaspora. So there were people like me who were either born in the UK to Chinese parents or had come over from Hong Kong at a very young age. And the long and hard debates we would have is that, are you Chinese or are you British? If there was a war between Britain and China, who would you fight for? And
these are real conversations.
Oh, yeah, these are real conversations. And my friends who were the same, but whose parents were from India or Pakistan, it was all the same conversation between all of us. And the mistake, which I'm a bit embarrassed to think about now, is that, well, you can be both. You can be Chinese American, you can be Italian American, you can be Italian British, you can be Chinese British. And there's what I do dislike is how you have people who they describe themselves as British-born Chinese or American-born Chinese, as if being born in America or Britain was some sort of terrible accident that happened to you. And one of my earliest experiences in Shanghai, so I was by myself in Shanghai looking for something to do with myself, and I got talking to somebody, the waiter in a restaurant, and he said, "I'm CBC." And I'm thinking, well, from your accent, there's nothing about you which looks Canadian. And I said to you Canadian-born Chinese? I said, no, China-born Chinese. Which then makes me think
CBC.
CBC, which then made me think about this poor graduate had no choice but to sit next to me over dinner.
Uh-huh.
And incredibly clever. And she said to me in perfect English, "So, Chun, are you Chinese or not?" And I said to her, "Well, what do you think?" And she said, "No." I said, "Why not?" And then she sort of listed a whole set of criteria that basically meant that the only people who could be Chinese were people who were born and bred in China.
She thought.
Yeah, that was her. You had to go to school in China, you had to be able to speak Mandarin, and you had to believe in Confucianism. And it was just like...
Culture. You must have a culture 100%.
Yes.
Otherwise you're not Chinese.
Yeah.
What do you feel? What is your feeling on who you are then?
I'm quite happy to describe myself as British Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm quite happy to describe myself as Northern British Chinese as well, because that's where
specifically.
Quite specific, yeah. And you'll meet plenty of people like me, people who are born and bred in the north, who spend their entire time in the south of England, who still describe themselves as Northerners.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
There's something around the north that maybe makes people feel attracted to the land. Yeah. I guess everybody. Well, I'm very happy to describe myself as Spanish from Madrid.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to say I'm from Madrid. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Hometown. Very good. So I was thinking. So I was now going into try to describe values a little bit, and of course you already described one, empathy, or the lack of empathy, as empathy being perhaps one of the highest values that maybe we could exhibit as humans. Anything else you think you can describe as high values for you personally?
There's a sort of... Just to build on, I don't know if I'm going to be answering your question, but let me give you a story that you will sort of know about, but you weren't there. So when I moved to China, I had a boss who is British, and he very aggressive, very loud, very domineering, very much knew his mind, and was going to tell you exactly what you were going to be doing. And people would tell me about this person, this guy, when he was the manager or the director or the country manager of a different country. And it's just like the two people are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember somebody over dinner once telling me, because I was really struggling, I was having a really hard time, new country, my girlfriend, now wife, didn't really want to come over, so I was by myself, wondering what am I doing here.
In China?
In China, in Shanghai.
She was in England.
That's right, yeah. So I was in Shanghai wondering what the hell am I doing here, and having a really hard time at work. And a few years later, I was having dinner with somebody who knew the director very, very well over many years, said, Chun, I could see you were having a hard time. And I was thinking, well, if you could see me having a hard time, why didn't you reach out and say, look, I know you're having a hard time, it's tough, let me give you the benefit of my experience. Why don't I go and speak to my friend over there and to say to him, look, Chun's having a hard time. And I suppose my realization and perhaps lack of empathy is that the reason why the director, who's also your boss, was having such a hard time was because he was under a lot of pressure as well. And he was getting shouted at by somebody else. And so he was, I think of people as either they hold the stress in or they put it onto others, which is the healthier way, rather than, or healthier for you, but not healthier for other people. And here I was.
For the receivers.
Here I was on the receiving end of his stress, not realizing that actually he was having a very hard time as well. And so there's this lack of communication of anybody saying, look, I'm getting shouted at because of here. This is my effect on you. And was it humanity? Was it good management? I don't know what it was, but we were all left to struggle with long explanatory emails and an answer of no. And you're left then over the weekend wondering, oh my God, what have I done now?
No, just you made me remember many things from the past.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I understand.
So I have a lot of empathy for the guy, and I hope he's very happy, living his best life.
We hope so, yes.
But it was tough on all of us. And at that time in China, Korea, with so much growth and with so much focus in the area.
Anyway, I must admit, in this particular case that touches me, I did enjoy. I could, for some reason, I could easily handle it. I had a good time, actually.
Good.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe the way I am, or maybe closer to his culture, or maybe the ability to shout back that I may have was also helpful. But yes, I understand the situation. When somebody has a very strong personality, I think my personality allowed me to balance with his, but it's just the way I am, probably.
Yeah,
I understand. But everything comes down to the subject of empathy, right? Empathy is what surrounds everything. Empathy and communication surrounds everything around how we should. Some people said humanity is basically just the society we live in, the society humans have created, and in which we live in, from previous podcasts, and then they said, and then one of the values of that society, that way we live together, is empathy between us, and that makes a good humanity, to say. There are many elements of that in this conversation.
sure.
But from the sort of to insist, but I'm very curious to know, from the values you think you said you got from your parents, your family, apart from, or in addition to empathy, would you think of any other that you feel, because you said, oh, I realized I was actually more Chinese than you thought, and any particular value that you got from your Chinese origins?
The one that springs to mind is summed up in a quote, which I don't know where it comes from, is that comparison is the thief of joy. So one of the things I mentioned earlier about how I speak to my Chinese tutor, and she would have exactly the same thing, which would be you would be compared to other people. It was a sort of motivation technique. You would be compared to somebody else, always negatively. Look at somebody else, they're so much cleverer than you, blah blah than you, or everything than you. And that was meant to be somehow motivational to go.
I was about demotivating conversation. Yeah.
So one of the things that I've increasingly thought of as a value, if you want to call it a value, is how stop comparing yourself. Some people are going to be better than you, than others, at some things than you, and you're going to bring other things to the table. But you are you, they are they. Everybody has their own struggles. Everybody has their own sources of joy. But try not to compare yourself to people. And you can see it most starkly, I think, in people buying cars. So people are buying very nice cars that they can't afford, for instance. Who are you impressing? Now, don't get me wrong, I like sitting behind a nice car as much as anybody else. But if it's because you really enjoy driving and it's one of your hobbies, then great. But if actually you're buying that car that you can barely or just can't afford to impress people that you may not even like.
Or no.
Or no.
Passing buyers.
Yeah, and I can remember I bought myself a nice sports car in my youth. Which I still mourn because I had to leave it behind when I went to China. And I realised people were looking at me. They were looking at the car.
Well, maybe both, yeah. Depends.
I didn't see them looking at me.
Car first. Yeah.
Car first, yeah. I was thinking, so always this reflected glow from this red sports car that I bought.
Oh, I know so many people that have to buy sports cars, especially men, that have this hunger for a sports car. Yeah, something. Well, yeah, I think I would like to have a sports car sometime, but not anymore. Since I lived sometime in Tokyo, now Hong Kong, this is a diversion, but I realized when the city works, when the city is designed for people and it's safe and it's clean, my God, the car is a waste of time.
All the times I've been in Hong Kong, I don't have to worry about getting my steps in.
Yeah.
Because you're walking, and the public transport, the MTR is great. Yeah. Gets you to most places, and
especially clean and safe, no matter the time, and on time. It makes a big difference. Actually, the car is just wasting time in cars and the traffic jams and so on.
Finding somewhere to park.
Where to park. It's so interesting when the city is well designed, how useless a car becomes. Cars used for other things, but maybe not for the city. It's very interesting. But in England, it's a great country for having a car. It's a fantastic place to drive. I must admit, all these side roads and everything is so beautiful, so green. So it is a lovely place to have a nice car.
You see, that was really interesting. I can remember once you saying to me, "This country is really beautiful." I'm thinking, is it?
It is.
And I used to drive on the M3 a lot, and then you look around and say, "Yeah, actually,
it's very beautiful.
This is, the M3 through Hampshire. This is very nice."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't realize where we live. So, Chun, I think we can now maybe just start going into this last part of our discussion podcast chat. And I used to ask people, once we have reflected a bit on humanity, human values, a bit of what are the aspects of being positive aspects of humanity and so on. And now we need to live. We are living with this artificial intelligence in this part of our life, and it's here to stay. And so I ask, just in general, first of all, just give me your take on artificial intelligence. What do you think about it? Do you like it, dislike it? What is your feeling about it as a part of our current and future life?
I have mixed feelings about it. I use it at work to summarize a passage or a piece of work is fantastic. I can now ask ChatGPT to summarize a book for me. It's just superb.
Oh, have you done that?
Oh yeah. lots of great advantages. And is it going to take all of our jobs? I think it'll take some people's jobs or some people's work. And you see how at the moment getting a junior entry-level job is all the more difficult because AI can do some of the junior work. And I do worry about in 10, 15 years' time, when all the senior people have retired, there is no pipeline of junior people because you didn't bother to hire them because you were saving money 10, 15 years ago. What's going to happen then? But, you know, if you're focused on shareholder value for this quarter or next financial year, then you don't worry too much about that. And plus, I'll be retired, so who cares? I was in a seminar for a big software company that I won't name, and they were talking about using AI, and it's, you know, this isn't to replace people. This is to enhance people's jobs and to allow them to, for colleagues, employees to work at a higher up the value chain. And then you're not going to be surprised when I tell you this, that not that long ago, they then went and fired a whole load of people in their company. We're doing so well that we're losing staff. So I think society is changing. I'm hoping by the time my son gets to further education that we'll have worked out what we're going to do about exams. Because in the real world, if people are using AI to help themselves, so why are you having to remember all of this knowledge and to write it down?
The use of memory is not so important, let's say.
It's just changing. It's certainly changing. So I've been building up my skills in management, coaching, and counselling, and I see people on the internet and people in colleagues and friends using AI for coaching and counselling. And part of me thinks this is great because you can get some really good hints and tips and some insight. Part of me thinks, well, actually, it's a large language model. It doesn't actually really understand you. It's just predicting the next word. And it's scraping the internet anyway. So how do you know whether that advice is actually right or not? Is AI looking out for you based on your best interests? Well, no, it's just an algorithm. And you hear about a very small number of tragic cases where people have been advised that, I think you should go and commit suicide from their AI counselling. Don't get me wrong, this isn't happening every day, and it's very rare, so that's why you hear about it in the press. But on the other side, I think, well, coaching and counselling is quite inaccessible unless you can afford it. So, of course, people are pointing towards the free versions of, your favourite AI software. So, as with most things, there's good and bad in there. But I do worry that it's a sort of, somebody described this as an uncontrolled experiment on the human race, where we don't know exactly where it's going or what the outcome is.
Wow. Well, I wish I can remember everything you told me in the last 5 minutes. It was a great amount of thoughts. So the first one you said. So are you saying that we may stop recruiting young people? I mean, we don't stop recruiting young people, right? I mean, companies keep recruiting young people, but maybe for different type of job, for different. Or the role is changed because AI replaces part of what that people were supposed to do in the first place.
Let me give you a small example. So I have a friend who's in HR, and he doesn't need to hire a junior because some of the more junior tasks he can do quickly with the help of AI. So there's it's not a loss of a job. It's one was never created in the first place. So he's about our age, and so he will be retiring in the next whenever. So those junior menial jobs that we all did when we were younger in order to learn our trade, who's doing that now? Well, nobody, because more senior people are using AI, or you have a much smaller number of people doing what used to be done by more people. So you've got this talent pipeline of people who are doing the boring menial jobs that you need to do in order to get to become a senior and be more experienced, just not being hired. So the future senior lawyers, accountants, engineers, HR, where are they coming from? Well, the pipeline is now narrower because that work is being done by AI.
Wow, that's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, you think about it. Our previous company, you had a junior engineer who would do count the number of fire extinguishers on a plan. Okay, boring. Perhaps not the best use of 3-4 years
of a human brain.
Of a human brain, but you go through it.
What needs to be done?
It needs to be it needs to be done, and B, you are actually learning about the schematics of a vessel.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I never thought about it. Yes, I mean in that sense.
Yeah,
of creating a gap in the future. We're creating a problem for future employers to come. Interesting. And then you mentioned about control. That out of control might be not so positive. Do you have any view on how control should be? How do you think how do we control AI? Do you have any view on that? Even though, maybe it's a bit of a deep question.
The thing that springs to mind is this: is that we need innovation. I'm not against innovation, but you've got all sorts of products out there which is having a positive and detrimental effect on society, and decisions made by extremely clever business people and technical experts in order to make money, to grow their business. And you have to say, at what point is there a sort of oversight by people who represent all of us, i.e. the people who we've democratically voted for? Shouldn't they be having more of a say? And that's where I am at the moment.
I see. And then just sorry.
No, just to say, there's a great series of having a child. I'm really interested on the effects of all of this on my son. And same for girls as well. But I would recommend a writer called Jonathan Haidt, Haidt, I think it is, who does a series of thinking books, articles about the effects of technology on growing children and parenting, and some of the struggles that we had growing up, we now don't want to have our children go through. But then, at what point do you grow?
Wow, that's a very interesting question. Very new world they live in. This new children lives in a very different world that we grew up. Very different. When I grew up, I didn't have a computer. Computers didn't exist at home, or didn't have a phone, my mobile phone, and didn't have all these things in your hands. And now people are born with AI.
You used to talk a lot about digital natives, and it's now are we now hitting a generation of AI digital natives?
I think we are.
Yeah.
I think we are. So interesting how they will face life, how they will approach problem solving, and it's interesting. They will use the technology probably at large, very much. And so then maybe my final question on this, on you mentioned on counseling and coaching. I didn't think AI is applied. Do you think AI is applied in the actual session when you have a session with someone and you're trying to give this either advice or listen to someone and trying to get that person to solve their own problems, let's say? Do you think AI plays a role in there?
In the counselling session or coaching session, no.
No.
But what I had in mind is people who don't have access for whatever reason to coaching or counselling, depending on their issue, instead typing into a large language model saying, so-and-so happened, I reacted in this way, what's wrong with me? Or, and as we know, if you put in a badly focused question into an AI model, you get a badly focused answer.
Yeah, and well, I believe over time the AI will become a bit, I wouldn't say, well, maybe more intelligent. The database will be larger. The case stories will be more abundant, and maybe the conclusion will be more fine-tuned into being something meaningful or useful for the other person. But it will always depend on the data that is fed in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see one way of getting better, because when I've typed in a poorly focused question, I never get a response back of, what do you mean exactly by this bit?
Well, that's a good AI.
Yeah, well,
Ask it back.
Instead, you just get this answer, very long, and some of it very good and very relevant.
Yeah. Well, I think we both believe so much in coaching and counseling, and yeah, I wish the human touch, the relationship between humans in that sessions, I think is priceless. Right now, I don't see how AI could replace the value of those very focused conversations. So I hope that keeps happening. And yes, AI can help to prepare and to get maybe to give more value to the other person. But Chun, I think this is more or less the end, coming to the end. But I have to ask you the question that I was asked to formulate the next guest. This question is simple, and the question is: so, what can you say you have learned, if anything, from the last 40 whatever minutes we've been about you for the last 40 or so minutes we've been talking to?
What have I learnt about myself is the question.
Yes, in this podcast.
I've learned that for all the time that we've spoken, that there's still things that we haven't spoken about before.
Incredible. Anything a bit
Anything else?
deeper?
I liked your questions about digging more into the sort of Chinese stroke British upbringing, and I've done some thinking about that. But actually, your questions about that has made me think more deeply about the effects of each, more specifically, rather than this whole general concept of living two different cultures at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. It was very interesting to hear about. I like this CPC. It's just like people even use the shirt. It's very interesting. I have to think about mine now. Who am I? I am Spanish born. I don't know. I need to think about mine. Is whatever.
Madrid-born Spanish.
Madrid-born Spanish one.
Mass.
Madrid-born Spanish. I don't know. Anyway, so very interesting. So now, Chun, you need to please think about a question I will formulate to my next guest.
There's one YouTuber podcaster I like, where he asks all guests to recommend 3 books. So you might ask that. I liked your question about what did you learn about yourself. I was reading something recently, and it's one of my interests, which is how do senior people become senior?
Oh,
right. And in the HR literature, you'll talk about you'll have lists of how they need to have that human touch, and they ought to have this empathy and all of these really great human attributes that I see so rarely in some of the most senior people that I know. And you think, well, what has happened? And my current theory, which I've stolen from someone else, is that in order to get to the top, you get bashed by so many people from all sides. You need that resilience and thickness of skin, which generally means you don't reflect upon yourself that much.
Oh.
So I wonder whether a question for the future might be something along the lines of, tell me, you'd have to ask people to prepare, a moment of self-reflection that changed how you think or behave.
Nice. That's a nice question. Wow. Well, Chun, I think we could talk for ages about 2 or 3 other themes that you open up in this podcast. Okay, not for now, not for this time. So I think this is our podcast. Thank you so much, Chun, for being who you are and for sharing with everybody. And I will ask all the viewers to please subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode. So goodbye from Winchester, England. Goodbye. Thank you, Chun.
Thanks, Lewis.
Goodbye. Done.
Was that all right?
Yes, I think it was about 45 minutes, which is sweet spot actually.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's recording.
Hopefully, yeah.